Today is Wednesday, May 15th. The Mets are having trouble in their own division. Is it time to panic again? Let's talk about it.
Shay Station, Jerry and Charlie. Shay Station, Jerry and Charlie. Riding through the airwaves, bringing you the heat. Come on, pull your fans. Now get up out your seat. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. They're bringing you all things Mets. Now you're listening to Shay Station.
Welcome back to the Shay Station podcast. It's been an interesting week in Mets baseball. They've done some winning. They've done some losing. They've gotten shut out by a starting pitcher twice, which is not what you want. But there's a lot of takeaways here, a lot of new roster moves, so some new faces on the block going into tonight's game at Citizens Bank Park. I'm one of your co-hosts, Jack, a.k.a. Jolly Olive, joining me over Zoom, looking crystal clear on the computer screen with a thumbs up, is Jerry Blevins. Jerry, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I can hear it in your voice how you're feeling. You're not hiding those emotions.
Oh yeah, had a commute from hell. I'm like a beaten down dog right now. I need some love from my team.
Even more than that, I sense an undertone of anger and resentment, which I appreciate.
What? No way.
Yeah, it's in there.
Positive on Shea Station, Jerry.
The first of all, shout out to all the mothers out there. Happy belated Mother's Day.
Very nice.
This is our first chance as a podcast to say thank you to all the women that make this world a better place. So thank you.
Like that. Good way to start.
Yeah, a little positivity to slide along that resentment that you're holding on to.
Yeah, a little bit. So there's you're right on the nose. You're a detective.
Let's talk about the new roster moves first. What do you got for it?
You know what? Let's talk about that first, because that is the most timely news of this episode. It actually hasn't even been announced yet, but by the time this episode comes out, these roster moves will likely be finalized, announced by the team. The plan, the rumors by many beats writers, are that Joey Wendell is going to be designated for assignment. Many Mets fans are rejoicing over that. Yohan Ramirez, who's been up and down and a Baltimore Oriole as well this season, he's going to be DFA'd as well. And the Mets plan to call up Joey Lucchesi to take today's start against the Philadelphia Phillies because Hauser had to warm up for yesterday's game. We'll get to that in a little bit. And the bigger piece here is that Mark Vientos is coming up to take a roster spot as well. Now, I'm very happy for him. I think he got a little shortchanged after his walk-off heroics. So goes the roster turnover of a major league roster. I think the big thing here is that they're facing a lot of lefties coming up. The Marlins have some lefties in Trevor Rogers, Jesus Luzardo. We face Ranger Suarez tonight, so Vientos could get into the lineup
Weathers
tonight.
Weathers
as well. Good point. So Vientos is looking at some playing time over the next week, and that might be a good thing because Brett Baty has looked a little lost as of late. He's been struggling against lefties all year long. And the Mets just need a spark plug on offense because there's been pretty much no consistency in the lineup, as you can tell by the various shutouts over the past week.
That's a fact. So the Joey Wendell experiment of saying sayonara to Luis Guillorme and bringing in Joey Wendell did not work out.
Did you see what happened to poor Luis Guillorme yesterday?
What's that?
Did you see what happened to poor Luis Guillorme?
Did he pitch again?
No. Angels were in a one-run game, I think, in the 8th inning. Guillorme, I think it might have been his first Angels at bat. I could be wrong. But Ron Washington calls the suicide squeeze. Guillorme squares. The pitch is in the other batter's box. He does everything he can to get the bat out there. And it fails, and the whole play falls apart. The Angels lose the game, and Ron Washington does not have kind words for Guillorme after the game. So if the Angels don't want him, bring him home, guys.
For Guillorme?
Yeah,
he went after it?
I won't, assign, character blame or anything, but those quotes were alarming, to say the least, for a coach to a player. So poor Guillorme, I'm sure he misses us as much as we miss him.
Wow.
Hopefully.
That's, it's not, well... Sorry, buddy. Washington, that's tough. But from the Mets standpoint, I think it's a smart move. Vientos, you need some offense. We talked about it a little bit before we started recording, but the bottom half of the order has fallen apart.
Yeah.
And, Pete, Lindor, and Nimmo and JD Martinez, who's gotten a little bit hot,
Right.
starting to find his swing, his rhythm. It's just not enough, and they need some guys at the bottom of the order to pull their weight. And Vientos adds some thump and some late inning heroics, walk off home run style, and he deserves it, man. They gave Zach Short plenty of time. Zach Short as well, by the way, but Joey Wendell. Just not working out. And Brett Beatty, like you said, he looks lost at the plate, looks overmatched again, looks confused at times. But I think Vientos has earned his spot, and with the lefties coming up, it's a perfect spot for him to have success. And hopefully he lights a fire. And one of these guys decides that they want this job.
Yeah.
And takes off with it. So, yeah, man. So on that side of things, that's the offense. But pitching wise, we've been talking about it all season. It's been a talking point for everyone. All these walks, man.
It's
walks,
tough to watch. It's tough to watch.
On top of that, the hit by pitches, like it's been atrocious, and we've been talking about it's going to catch up to us, and it did. It's caught up to, especially in big spots. The starters have fallen apart with it, and now the bullpen, it's hurt them a few times, including a blown save by Edwin Diaz. You had a lot to say on Twitter about the umpires, and understandably, how atrocious can you be? But the bottom line is, like, you got to throw the ball in the strike zone.
Yeah.
And that'll eliminate a lot of these problems. But it's caught up, and it's created a lull in the season right now. So
yeah, I mean, the only guy that's not walking a ton of people is Jose Quintana, who's getting absolutely smacked over his past 2 starts. Outside of everything else, I mean, Jose Budo was the perfect example of that yesterday. I mean, he turns in a quality effort, but along the way, he's walking 3, he's hit a couple batters, he's in and out of bases loaded jams. Like, the control for this entire staff is not there. And while the ERA result has been good, when you're leading the league in walks, it doesn't really matter if you're limiting hits, because they're all the same in the end. Those base runners are going to come around, especially if you're constantly pitching with runners in scoring position. As for the Diaz thing, I mean, he was 1 strike away from getting out of it before he hit Alec Boehm. We can speculate day and night as to whether or not Whit Merrifield, who's been struggling all season, would have gotten out of that at bat. Doesn't matter. The point is, Edwin Diaz is your closer. He needs to lock down that save. You win in with the 2-run lead. And the point I made after that, in reflection, after, having fun with making fun of the umps, is exactly what you said before. The bottom of the lineup was basically the downfall of that game. The Mets had the bases loaded with nobody out in the 5th, in the 3rd inning. So early on in Christopher Sanchez's start, Martinez draws a long walk, makes him throw a lot of pitches. We're set up for this big inning. And then the Mets, Brett Beatty, Harrison Bader, and I believe Tomas Nido, if I'm remembering correctly, go down in 9 pitches, 9 strikes, an immaculate inning out of nowhere for a pitcher who couldn't throw a strike before that. And he parlays that into a 6-inning outing. And that, alleviates the Phillies bullpen. They're able to use their A guys when they need to, and that wins them the game. Now, there's nothing you can do when Aaron Nola or Max Fried have their ace stuff, because they're paid like aces and they can pitch like aces. And even though the Mets didn't put up a lot of good at-bats, those things will happen over the course of a season. But what can happen is that absolute rally-killing, showing by the bottom of the lineup. And I think that the Mets are acting swiftly to address that by bringing in someone new, a new face, which I really do appreciate, because that was, I think, the toughest thing to watch over this past week of Mets baseball.
Yeah, I agree. The walks are horrible TV. They're not fun to watch.
Oh.
But yeah, the bottom of the order has just been atrocious. And so that's a tough pill to swallow, especially against, like you said, Fried and then Aaron Nola. I mean, I have no idea what's going on with my background.
I've never seen that one before. That's awesome.
Yeah, the fireworks.
Oh, I needed that. I needed to put a smile on my face.
Yeah, we had it. They're going again. I have no idea why the fireworks.
If you don't watch on YouTube, you should start. That's all.
Yeah, this one will be a good one. But it's just a tough. They're showing what they look like when they're not playing great.
Yeah.
So this is, and a team built like this, like we faced the Braves and the Phillies, maybe the two best teams in all of baseball.
Right.
Um, and they showed some fight. They've got grit. This front office making moves when they need to. They're doing their part, but sometimes the roster shows its weaknesses, and it's doing that. And you're getting beat by better teams in certain spots, and you're letting go of games that you should win. The Monday's loss was a tough one.
Yeah.
I am not worried in a sense about Edwin Diaz. I think he'll get back to being really, really good. I think it'll be a while until he's back to being his dominant self, but his stuff is still there. He'll iron out these details. He's been out of baseball for over a year.
Yeah.
So the rust it'll come, but it's all of the other stuff that makes those glaring that and just it's just tough baseball. But again, I do like the fight that this team is showing. I do like the moves that the front office are making when they have to, moving Hauser to the bullpen, calling up Christian Scott, getting rid of Zach Short, who just wasn't playing, nothing on him.
Right.
And then, I think even the leash was a little too long on Joey Wendell. I like him as a player. I hope he's had a solid career. But we can't have that on a team that needs production out of every spot. And so bringing up a guy like Vientos, it may, depending on how it looks moving forward, if you're struggling with at bats somewhere, this is going to be whoever's hitting, you're gonna stay on this team. So sometimes you're just bested, and when your roster's not as elite as some of the top things, and you're going to get beat. Now they have Miami after they go to Philly.
Right.
Gonna have to get some wins there.
So I think that's
the need.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say next, is that I think the Phillies and Braves have kind of staked their claim as 1 and 2 in the division. And I think me and you both kind of suspected that even from, the preseason building up to this year, is that, they were going to be a class above. Now the question becomes, can the Mets beat the teams below them? If you're going to be this third place teams can still get to the playoffs. They can still have winning seasons, but you have to beat the bad teams. They did that against the St. Louis Cardinals, albeit, kind of a nail-biter win with that Adam Ottavino save, which, by the way, great outing by him to gut that out and, get out of that against some tough Cardinals hitters. But yeah, when you're getting absolutely outclassed, I mean, even the Braves win that we got was, we weren't leading that entire game until the very last pitch of it, when Brandon Nimmo hits the home run. So, if you're going to have to snake wins out like that and use a little bit of magic, even the Vientos walk-off homer against the Cardinals, you have to beat up on the bad teams. And I think this weekend will be a nice test for the Mets, because they have faced a lot of good ball clubs early on in this season, and I think they've held their own for the most part leading up to this week where things really did fall apart. And it's tough because when they were winning games, they were doing it pretty much without Pete Alonso at 100%. Now you have him back to the level where you expect him to be. This past week, he's got a homer, 4 doubles, a 625 slugging clip, and then everybody else has basically cooled down at the same time outside of him, JD Martinez, and Nimmo, who's basically playing hurt. So I'm hoping that with this call-up, maybe we get some a few Vientos starts. I'd like to see him out there a few times, give Beatty some rest, whatever. Get Tyrone Taylor in the lineup, man. I mean, he started for the first time in a week yesterday. He was the one that broke up the perfect game bid against Nola. DJ Stewart's been hitting well. I just think that we need to change things up a little bit. And you have talented players on this roster. Even if they are slumping, they're good hitters. We've seen them surge at times. I just think a little bit of jumbling is needed. We haven't even talked about Jeff McNeil, who's looked like a shell of himself. And it's tough, man, because when this Mets lineup does hit, they are really fun to watch. They are like they were 2 years ago. They passed the baton. But when they're off, it's just exactly like the 3-pitch inning in the 7th inning yesterday for Nola, just absolutely giving him the pass, swinging the poor approach, and parlaying things and keeping things easy for the opponents. Something's got to change, and I hope it can in the next 5 days.
Yeah, I agree. And you mentioned McNeil. I could see some playing time being lost there.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the move would be to get McNeil out of the lineup on occasion. But they'll find a way. They'll figure it out.
Sure.
Couple of notes here as far as injuries go. We I don't know about but I think I kind of figured Senga would be farther out than we anticipated. Japanese guys in general, they're keep things close about the injuries and they take their time working back. It's kind of normal for them. So Senga will figure some stuff out, maybe July, we'll see what's going on. But Brooks Raley, that came out of nowhere for me. That's a big loss. I don't even know how to go. You wrote it in the notes. He said some UCL damage, some bone spurs. Quote, I don't know all the details and it's a little more complex. That's troubling. So, he can't pitch without that elbow, without feeling comfort. He's not going to be secure in letting it go. So this bullpen, he was so good. This bullpen is going to be missing him for, it seems like, longer than anticipated. So that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, the scary part for him is that I don't think they sound like they know what's wrong either. Like they don't know the severity of it. And it is tough because Raley, a really small sample size, but he threw 7 shutout innings, only 5 base runners during the year. I mean, he was really important. Like when we had him and Drew Smith healthy, we only needed 5 innings from Mets starters. Like the walks were kind of okay because the bullpen was so lights out. And you look at the past 7 games of the Mets bullpen, the only guy that's really been keeping up his end of the bargain is Reed Garrett, who's basically just been, the biggest story of the season, the biggest success for the 2024 Mets. But Diaz has struggled. Ottavino's been used a lot, and I think with how much he's been used, he's been pitching well. But that's, you're burning 2 ends of the candle there. It's going to run out.
Especially, he's older, man.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're leaning on him a ton. Jorge Lopez has been more hittable, so the Mets really could use a Drew Smith, who I think is going to get activated today. I'm not sure.
Let's hope. Yeah, that's the one move that we're not sure of. But again, like Diekman has shown his inconsistency throughout his career. He hasn't filled in for Brooks Raley up to that kind of level, which we were kind of hoping for until Brooks gets back. They're going to lean on him a little bit more. But Drew Smith, who's had great splits his whole career against lefties too, if he comes back and he's back to himself, that'll be Ottavino is just praying for him. He's like, hey, whatever I got to do, I'll massage that arm myself. What do you need? I'll ice you. I'll stretch you out. Whatever you need. Yeah, I need some help back there.
Yeah, he definitely does. It's just the lack of leverage arms, I think, is really hurting the Mets right now. In a positive light, though, we did get some good outings this past week. I liked what I saw from Severino on Sunday night.
Good.
Sean Manaea looked really good yesterday, even if he was getting outdueled by Nola. It's just the walks, man. I mean, Christian Scott, I think, has been pretty much the only starter we've had that has not been walking the world, and he's looked really poised. He's throwing strikes. He's got good stuff, and I think he knows it. He's been the most fun Mets starter to watch so far, in my opinion. Obviously, things can change with one bad outing. It's been 2 starts, but that's really keeping me optimistic. And when you look at things from, a larger scope, the Mets still have David Peterson, who's also rehabbing from injury. He's looked great. We've done this story for about 4 years now where Peterson looks like he has the best stuff in the rotation, but things have fallen apart in the past. I'm willing to get fooled again because he's looked really good. He's thrown 14 scoreless innings with 24 strikeouts in his rehab assignment. That is promising to me, and I think there's going to be a spot for him, whether it's a 6-man or if Budo needs, a change of pace with all the walks and stuff like that. But the Mets have reinforcements, which is an encouraging sign. They've already made a move to change up the roster. There could be more moves on the way. Drew Smith could be back soon. It's just they feel like they've been a little stuck in the mud these past 7 games. And I think you come away from it knowing that they could play up better. I think they could play more to their potential. But they have faced tough teams, and they got the 2 wins in St. Louis, which I'm pretty happy about. It's just you want to see more from them because I think when we watch this team when they're going, they feel like they can be a playoff caliber winning team. It's just when they're off, they're really, really off.
Yeah, to kind of bring it around, it's not the panic button time because this team still has. They haven't fallen completely apart, but they need to start putting it together on a more consistent basis. I have always been a David Peterson fan.
Right.
I have also gone through hip surgery myself, and hips, especially for a pitcher, are so it's like a gradual thing. Like you feel the pain, but it messes with your mechanics. And
Mm.
so it's like gradually you get out of it. And so I think he's pitching, he's back to being like, oh yeah, this is how it's supposed to feel. So I think that's a positive. He's better than Adrian Hauser,
Yeah.
I believe. So it would be that again, so I think it's the double thumb that does this.
Yeah. Oh wow. You just you
I
look
can't
like
touch
the
my
master
arm.
of
It's a
it.
little chilly in my office today, so I
Gotta
keep
say.
trying to cover
Well, the
up.
fireworks should keep you warm, right? You know,
That's it. So
a lot of heat.
yeah.
Yeah. That's good.
But I think Peterson would be nice. I don't know what's going on with McGill.
I don't either because he's in the dugout. I saw him yesterday.
Yeah, so I think he might be around the corner or going. I'm not sure what the deal is, but yeah, man, they're willing to make moves. They're willing to push. The team has fight. They just can't walk this many guys, and the bottom of the order has to produce. And I can't wait to see a heater from Peter. Alonso needs to get hot.
It feels
He
like we're on the
needs
cusp, though. It does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
He
that's
looks
a
like
lot better.
he's right there, which is great because he looked lost for a minute. They just need to figure out how to get sustained success from the bottom of the order, whatever that is. Like you said, I like Tyrone Taylor. I think he's a ball player. He needs to be out there more. Harrison Bader mentioned that he doesn't like sitting.
Got to hit
He
them.
was like, that's not where I signed and why I signed there. Sorry, buddy, but it's whatever's best for the team. Like if they're going to figure this out, it's a team sport, but yeah, there's a lot of mouths to feed there and a lot of people to keep happy.
Yeah.
So yeah, they can't. They're facing maybe the best pitcher in baseball coming up now.
Yeah,
with
right.
Ranger Suarez.
Which like that feels unfair, you know? It's supposed to be the Wheeler and Nola
And he's the
rotation.
lefty.
Why is he the best one?
Yeah, exactly. But then they get Taiwan Walker, which he's
friend.
pitched about like he was, but then Katana started, so Quintana needs to turn it on here.
Yeah, I don't know what's happened after that 8-inning outing against the Cardinals where it looked like his arrival. It looked like he had everything working. His changeup had really good zip, and I think everything was able to play off that, and then he's just fully lost that since in the past two starts.
I think he'll turn it around. I think he's veteran enough and works hard enough that he's going to figure out how to lock it in, but it's a little bit more worrisome when the games are going as they have been. So yeah.
And with what you were talking about with the lineup before, I do like none of this is on coaching, I don't think. I mean, you can, cry about the hitting coach all you want. I think that Mets fans have done that a lot in the past 2 years, but it only has so much translation to day-to-day process. What I do like is that they've been, reactive to who's been hitting well in some areas. Like Tomas Nido has gotten a ton of playing time over Narvaez, and I think that's deserved, and I think Nido has earned that. And I think they're going to be doing that with Vientos as well, just to give Beatty a breather. But the question becomes, how good is the core of this lineup? Can they carry the offense? Like if we have Alonso going, Nimmo has looked great. I feel like we haven't talked about him enough. He's having a terrific start to the year. And we're finally starting to see JD going. He hit his first home run. He's been getting his hits. Can those three names alongside Lindor in a nice stretch be enough for this Mets offense to compete in games? I don't know the answer to that. And I think the
answer is yes.
Is just new bodies in the lineup at the bottom of the lineup to hopefully give them some breathing room.
Yeah, man. I think the answer is yes. Those guys are the names that you mentioned, the big names. Those guys are great players. Great players. If Marte remains fairly healthy, he's been pretty solid. He's played pretty good defense. He's been average at the plate, I would say, but he looks like he can be dynamic when he needs to be. Like I think he holds things back a lot, which is okay because he's an old man at 35.
Sure.
But those guys in the middle, you need something apart from those guys. They'll give you wins, but you can't beat the Phillies without having some production from somewhere. Some guy produce that you're not counting on to knock in a run here or there. a bullpen guy to come in and give you an inning.
Sure.
Yeah, you're gonna need the whole roster to chip in.
So let me ask you this. So the Mets tonight, they're kicking off an 8-game road trip. They go to Philly, they go to Miami for 3, and then they go to Cleveland for 3. Cleveland's been a pretty good team this year. I think they're still leading the AL Central. 8-game road trip. A lot can happen in this next week and, change of baseball. I'm going to ask you 2 questions. Who is your biggest factor in the Mets lineup first? What guy do you think can make the most difference in these next 8 games?
Yeah, so for me, it's Pete Alonso.
Yeah.
If Pete finds his power, like that's an easy one for me. So I'll probably add 2 different names here. But Pete Alonso, if he starts to, it looks like he's starting to make consistent contact. If he starts lifting the ball and hitting home runs, he's a game changer because Nemo, Marte, Lindor have been getting on base, and if Pete's there to knock him in with JD Martinez behind him, he can carry a ball club on his. He can win you an entire week's worth of games in an easy stretch. So that's an easy one for me. But I think my answer, I think it's Vientos.
Yeah.
I really do. We need a spark plug, and the back end of that lineup, as we've hounded on today, needs something, and Vientos might be that guy. But they need to find somebody to get on base on a consistent basis back there. So yeah, I think Alonso's the easy one because he can win a game. But I think Vientos can bring some depth to this lineup that they desperately need.
I'll go on a little bit of a different route.
Good.
Because I was going to lean Vientos initially. It's set up for him to have a nice week of play and get his name back in the mix for the Mets. I am going to go with Jeff McNeil because this week could really solidify like a dreary outlook for McNeil on this season because we're going to get a lot of lefties like we just mentioned. The Mets don't really have another second base option from the names I'm looking at right now, so McNeil is most likely going to play, especially with Wendell getting DFA'd. I got to see something this week, man. I don't know. We saw it for a brief, 2-week stretch at the end of April and the beginning of this month where he was going the other way. He wasn't swinging at pitches out of the strike zone. He wasn't trying to pull the ball, and he was hitting 300 in that stretch, and it was really nice at the bottom of the lineup to reset things. And these past 3 games have been really, really tough because he's been getting opportunities with runners in scoring position and just not converting at all. And the Mets, they don't need him, I think, to be, this 120 OPS plus kind of guy, this really big game changer in the lineup. They just need him to hang around and do his part. And I think that they haven't even been able to get that. So if that can flip on a dime and you can get a 300 average out of McNeil in the 8 spot where I think they should leave him, I think it changes everything because you're giving the top of the line. I mean, your RBI leader is still Brandon Nimmo, and he's hitting leadoff every day. He doesn't get that many chances. If you can get him those opportunities, I think that's going to be key, and that all starts with Jeff McNeil. So I'm really, really hoping for him to just have some sort of semblance of a better approach because this past week, I think his at-bats were the most tough to watch outside of like Brett Beatty.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. And he's a guy that they need.
Yeah.
He has to be productive because his batting style, it's either you get hits or you're useless.
Yes.
He's not hitting a home run once a week. But if you're only hitting a single once a week, like it's a glaring difference. You're right. If he starts to just put the ball in play and get on base, that changes everything because it'll flip the lineup back over.
Yes.
So I like that answer.
And think back to our one win in the past 5 games. It came in the 9th inning where Jeff McNeil, who has been slumping, laid down a bunt, got on base, got to second base, Nimmo brought him in. I mean, that is a key to this Mets lineup going the way they're supposed to go. I'm not saying Jeff McNeil should go up there and bunt every time, but I'm just saying
he's got to find a way on base,
approach.
though.
Find a way on base.
Find a way to get on base. Put the ball in play. Stop popping the ball up. Find a gap. Find a hole. Do what you've done or you're paid to do, like his style of play. And they need him. They need him to be consistent because they don't have a lot of consistency elsewhere.
Yes,
and he's supposed to be the consistent get on base, get knocks, bat 300 guy, and he's not right now.
And I think you can look at the active roster and go, oh, Harrison Bader's struggling. Okay, let's give Tyrone Taylor a start. Oh, is JD Martinez off a little bit? We can start DJ Stewart. Second base is not a position you can do that in. McNeil has to play. So you need him to go, and I think that's got to be the most important thing, because I trust names like Nimmo, Alonso, Lindor, and JD Martinez to do their job, get the job done. It's just Ken McNeil, who's getting paid like those guys to be a big part of this team. Can he do his part as well?
Yeah, that's the key.
Yeah. On the other side of the ball, now we mentioned a lot of the walks and stuff like that. The starting rotation, I think, has still done enough to keep the Mets in ball games outside of Quintana, who's had a really tough turn. Is there anyone you think you should highlight in these next 8 games, this next road trip, as a key to the Mets pitching success?
Yeah, so there's 2 guys for me. Number 1 is Christian Scott.
Yeah,
I think it's so exciting to talk about. It's been really cool to watch him kind of be himself on the mound already in the big leagues. I'm excited for him to kind of see what happens when the luster of being brand new wears off, right, and he's able to settle in, where he goes from here, because he's been pretty good. He hasn't been amazing, but he's capable of doing that. I've liked what I've seen, but I think, I think he's got a higher ceiling than people are giving him credit for around baseball. I think Mets fans see it, and we haven't been excited for a starting pitcher prospect since since Syndergaard, Matz, I think.
I think Matz was the latest one of that group.
That was like Syndergaard and Matz were like right with each other coming up.
Because I don't think the hype was there for McGill and Peterson, right? So it really
Not
is
really.
coming up on 10 years.
Yeah, so that's what I mean. Like, this is the one guy that's had that kind of shine on him to be. There was other guys that they had drafted that were first round or second rounders, and they injuries and traded away or whatever the case may be. This guy is had sesuccess at upper levels of minor league, and he's ready to go. So I'm looking for him. And then the other one is Severino. If Severino can continue to progress, eliminate those walks, or at least reduce them, he's going to start throwing 6-7 innings a start, because he looks so effective. His stuff looks really good. So those are the 2 keys for me, to kind of, they can win ball games. They're competitive. They're not a terrible team. They're not the Marlins. You know what I mean? They're not the Rockies.
Yeah.
But who are they? Can they bump up a level and compete and really push for that playoff spot? Who else in the division would be that? Is that the not Marlins, but like the Dodgers are the cream? Are they Diamondbacks, Giants?
What level are
Brewers? They at? Where do they fit? I think, are they in that tier, in the top tier of that wild card chase? I think so. Severino and Christian Scott can give them a push to be at the top of that list.
Yeah, I mean, good teams have stoppers in their rotation. I want to briefly say, Jerry, you mentioned the Rockies. They're on a 6-game heater right now. So
they are on a heater, but I don't believe in that.
They're getting hot, okay? My Rockies, jeez. No, I mean, I like that you brought up Severino, because I think Scott's an easy answer. It's just, we talked about it's a tough product to watch. He's basically the only starter that's been exclusively fun to watch. Everyone else has kind of had struggles with control.
Yeah, Paul Skeens made his debut, and all Mets fans, I appreciate, are like, hey, it's Christian Scott
It's Christian Scott bump day, baby. Paul Skeens who? With Sevy, he's only thrown over 100 pitches once this year, and it was the 8-inning start that I got to watch in person. He looked absolutely incredible.
You got to show up every 5th day with him then.
Exactly. The version of Sevy is still there. It still exists. I mean, we saw it against, a team that's leading their division in the Chicago Cubs. With him, it was 6 walks against the Rays, 3 walks against the Braves. It's hard to get by even when you're still throwing 98, 94 pitches there. So I'm curious to see how he can do against a weaker lineup like the Miami Marlins.
He's got another gear.
I think he has that gear in him still.
Yeah. That's been great. Again, we've been hounding on, or we were pro Severino signing from the jump. It came with a lot of scary parts for people that don't know, but he looks like he's back to his old self. But if he gets rid of those walks, he'll start to get deep into ball games regularly, which is key to give the back end of the bullpen a bit of a rest.
Yeah, he needs those quick innings. I'm actually going to look at his splits in a little bit. I want to give my answer first. It's kind of an easier one than my other one. Edwin Diaz. Just need a nice week from him, I think. Not even just, striking out the side in Diaz fantastic fashion, but locking down the opportunities when he gets them. It was really, really hard to watch Monday because the first Stott hits the home run on a 2-0 pitch. Diaz missed a spot. Stott likes it inside. What are you going to do? That'll happen. Okay, he got
That'll happen, especially in a 2-run ball game.
Yes.
That you're willing to allow that to not walk the guy to bring the tying run up to the plate. Diaz trusted his stuff. He's got swing and miss stuff with both of his pitches. He got beat.
Yep.
Tip of the cap, and then you go back to work.
The thing that upset me was the following two hitters who are at the bottom of the Phillies lineup getting on base and setting up that entire rally, because by the time Diaz finds his stuff again against, Whit Merrifield and Alec Boehm, he's competitive in those at-bats, but it's too little too late, and you can't have that out of your closer. So I need a confidence-boosting outing for Edwin Diaz.
Love that.
Yeah.
I agree wholeheartedly.
And I mean, with the home run ball, Anthony DiComo tweeted out a pretty alarming stat, which was that Edwin Diaz has already allowed more home runs this season 4 than he did the entirety of 2022. Before Diaz became the superhero that he was in that great year, he was still susceptible to the home run ball, and he was still good while he was doing it. That's just going to happen when you have a power pitcher who's no longer throwing 102 miles per hour, which I think is all what we want for Edwin Diaz because we want him to stay healthy. I think the velo will come. I think the control will come. But I don't think that home run ball is going away. But you can still get by if Diaz is on his A stuff. And I think I need, just in these next 8 games, if he can get a couple saves or just a couple
some clean innings. Some confidence. You nailed it. Confidence building outings, yes, regardless of what it looks like. If he can command his pitches on a regular basis and get consistent break on his slider, I think that's the key for me. That's what I look for every time I watch him pitch. Is he getting the ball down and away to a righty glove side with regularity, and does his slider. So his slider, when it's kind of doing this, like going away, like arm side, that's not great. When it has this, or even like the straight downward tilt, or it comes and then goes this way, it's unhittable because they're guessing and they're guessing wrong. That's when he's in 2022 mode, and it doesn't matter what pitch he's throwing. It's got four seam up, and then that slider that actually moves down. And then that's why his home runs were basically eliminated. Again, as a closer, you're coming into a 2-3 run ball game. You're willing to put the ball on a tee instead of walking a guy. You're going to give those home runs up. But again, you nailed it with confidence building outings. I think that's key.
And honestly, in that Philly blown save, I honestly thought that he was going to get through it when we got to the Schwarber at bat. Schwarber came up with 2 men on, nobody out, and Diaz's slider suddenly just clicked and he was able to get 2 whiffs on it. It's when it takes 4 batters to get there, you can't live like that even with a 2-run lead. So Diaz is my X factor for this week for sure. The starting rotation, just got to give me 6 innings, man. Don't walk 6 batters, and I think we can get by. The Mets play good enough defense, yada, 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 yada. But yeah, it was a tough week, I'd say so.
It was a tough week, but not panic button week.
No, I mean, you win 1 in Philly, you win 2 in Miami, suddenly you're back at 500 and the world's your oyster.
There you go.
Yeah. So
are you a fan of oysters?
I like oysters. Yeah, my dad.
I love them. Yeah.
He was he trained me to like seafood from a young age.
Good for him.
No fussiness over here. Okay, we like lobster, we like crab, clams, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm excited for this week, as excited as a dreary Mets fan can be after 4 losses in their last 5. And I'm excited to not face the Phillies and Braves for a little bit because they're.
I'm excited. By the way, the Guardians are leading their division.
They are, okay.
But I'm excited for the Churve coming up. We get to see, most importantly, Joey Fuego's post-game interviews are always must-watch TV.
We need
so if you get a
Joey
chance to do
Lucchese,
that.
I'm a dog shirt. I can't believe we never got that going.
I think I'm a dog. Love that.
I think I'm just a dog. Yeah, I'm excited to see him, man. I mean, every time he's come up, the results have been good, and for some reason, he just hasn't been able to stick. So hopefully you can make the most of this opportunity today. And hopefully we can keep the Phillies off balance a little bit, because I cannot believe, you know what? I'll say this. I think the Phillies have a good roster. I think Ranger Suarez is pitching out of his mind. I can't believe they're the first team with 30 wins. I can't believe that we have this super team in the Dodgers, the Braves, who are always good. The AL Central looks amazing this year. And yet the Philadelphia Phillies, first team to 30 wins. They don't even have Trey Turner. They didn't even start Bryce Harper yesterday. Kyle Schwarber's been hurt. They might be, I don't know, man. They're scaring me a little bit.
They look like they do every September and October in May, which is scary.
They're not supposed to do it this early in the year. I think that's
a
scary.
surprise.
It's like, okay, when it gets to August,
we've got our work cut out for it. But luckily with the even schedule now where we play everybody, we don't have to face those guys as much anymore. So
yeah, I mean, I'm scared about when we face the Rockies because they're hot. Jerry.
They're hot.
They're hot. And
that's scary. It. Your rocks.
We don't do well in Coors Field. But yeah, so that'll do it, I think, for this episode. Keep your head up.
Oh wait, I've got an ad read.
Oh, I totally forgot.
I've got an important announcement. I don't know if you guys see the swag going on, Field of Dreams. I've got the shirt on, but this is exciting for me. Field of Dreams whiskey. It's whiskey made from the most famous cornfield in the world. Drew Storen is the founder, former teammate, National Red. Tyler Clippard and I, plus a group of actually people that know what they're doing business-wise, got together. We created Field of Dreams whiskey. Very exciting. On May 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern at drinkfieldofdreams.com, our second release, our annual release, goes on sale. Last year, we did it. We had 2,000 bottles went up for sale.
Whoa.
And they sold out in 10 minutes. This year, we're doing 5,000 bottles for sale, 3 p.m. Eastern on May 20th. So I imagine they're going to go fast, but we're making a push for it. So these are called Player Series for a reason. So we release, this year, the release will be 23,114 bottles. That is one for every Major League Baseball player that has debuted.
Oh, very nice.
All on these bottles, I'll show you. This one is already been sampled a few times. They're individually numbered and they're hand numbered. So that's my number.
Wow.
19,230 is for me. So you can look these up online, find out whose bottle you have. And they're represented. So they're for sale in stores in five states as of now, but we have shipping in 36 states. You know, this is why I don't do these things. But we have 5,000 going up for sale on May 20th at 3 p.m. I think you can go to drinkfieldofdreams.com/JohnBoy and it'll take you to the site. It's exciting. The bourbon is delicious. And it is a tie-in. And if you order on that day and you're lucky enough to get a bottle, it should come, according to our shipping department, it should come in time for Father's Day, and you'll be a favorite.
Jerry, this looks awesome. I'm on the website right now, guys. You should go check it out. Even if you're not a bourbon or a whiskey enjoyer, this is a really
There's somebody in your life that is.
That is the thought I had. I was like, this is a good Father's Day
made by baseball players from the Field of Dreams corn. It's awesome.
How do I win a signed Mr. 19230 bottle? How do I get my hands on that?
I could probably make that happen for you.
Not Jerry Blevins. I just want your number. That's all I want.
Well, we can't guarantee that I have any more. I only got one of my number because I know a guy. But they're limited and they're scattered out randomly. So if you're first in line doesn't mean you're going to get player number one. It's super fun, and there's a tie-in. Plus, later on in the year, we're going to have a small batch release that we're tying in with the Players Alumni Association.
Nice.
So we'll have special guests and players with their little sketch on there. It's going to be really fun. But May 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern, the bottles go for sale, and I think they're going to go quickly. So hopefully, you guys get in line and get your stuff.
Yeah, I mean 93 proof, 46.5%, Jerry. I think
it's delicious. It's a sipping bourbon. Like, it's good enough to drink neat, which is, again, I wouldn't have jumped on board if I didn't like the product.
Right.
I'm happy to be a part of it, and I'm excited for this release.
Absolutely. And I was excited to hear you do an ad read because I don't think I've heard you do an ad read.
Yeah, it was passionate.
Yeah, we almost missed it. So I'm glad you remembered in the end. I got to secure.
I would have gotten fired from my own company if I didn't talk to you about it.
It would have been a tough look for you to get fired.
I would have fired myself.
Yeah. Very noble of you, though. All right, I'm setting an alarm in my phone so I don't forget.
Awesome.
May
Man. Oh, and we're sending a bottle to the John Boy office for you guys.
I'm gonna swap that.
Make sure that Jimmy and Jake crack that bottle for you and you can sample it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And then, it might mysteriously disappear from the office.
Smuggle it out.
All right, guys, make sure you head to that website right now. Set an alarm in your phone. It's in 5 days, so don't miss it. 3 p.m.
That's
Eastern.
right.
I assume most of you are Eastern listeners. And sip on it a little bit when you get it, and hopefully the Mets will be winning a ball game in front of your TV while you're sipping.
Awesome. Yeah, let's go Mets, man. Let's get some W's. Let's get out of Philly with a win or two.
2 would be nice.
And beat up on some Marlins. Let's go fishing.
Oh, I also want to hear your rationale. So if we take the 2 games in Philly, it's a 2-game sweep, yes?
No.
What? I mean,
so dumb.
Didn't count for them.
No.
It's a 2-game dusting.
Yes, it's a split. You split a 4-game series.
Get the split, boys. All right, we'll see you guys next time. We'll see you Monday, probably, to recap the next 5 games. Division games. Let's win them. Come on.
Let's go Mets.
Let's go. Mark Vientos.
Jerry and Charlie, Shade Station. Jerry and Charlie.